today I am going to show you our newest sensory story, which is Talk About the Monster. I'm just getting it prepared now and we'll be using it with our students then. So I know you all really like the last sensory story walkthrough, so I'm just going to share this one today and how we do it on every page as well. Before we start, I just want to say that I've put the sensory story in a rolling tray just because I find it much easier. I can pull it towards me, take it with me, especially if we're moving around the classroom or doing it in a different area to normal. So I am hoping to progress to have 3 sensory stories at once, and then I can pick and choose with my students as well. So this is the story that I'm using today for our newest sensory story. It's called Talk About the Monster and it's written by Mistofer Christopher, and you can find him on Instagram as well. But it's a really lovely book and I can't wait to show you all about it, and I just know my students are going to love it. So page 1. When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. So here is our monster that I'm going to share on this page as well, and I'll pass him round. My students can all see him. He is a worry monster, but you know, he's a great monster to use for this sensory story as well. The first thing you do is start with his eyes. Were they square? Were they round? Was he looking at the ground? And for this, I am going to use 2 different types of eyes with my students. So I have these large googly eyes that we can play around with, and I have these round eyes as well. So just giving them an option of 2 different types of eyes for the monster, so they can choose what eye their monster has. Were they beady with a wrinkle and made you twinkle? When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. And this is where I'll just keep referring to our little worry monster here as well. The next thing to do is you look at his ears. It will help you to quell your ugly, buggly fears. Was it 1? Was it 3? Or was it only 2? Was it 8, 7, 6? Did they make you go, whoa? Were they large and kind of floppy? Or were they pointy and sort of sloppy? When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. So in this one, I'm just going to have all my students show me their ears. Touch your ears, where's your ears? Just helps them to get used to different parts of their body and working on life skills as well. So tell me about his nose. Was it a button or a hose? Was it long and sort of sticky, or was it short and really icky? So we are going to use little pom-poms for this, and I'm just going to put them in a little tray with different pom-poms, and I'm going to put some buttons in there, and my students can choose what nose they think should go on our monster. Did he sniffle and kind of snortle, or did he snuffle and sort of chortle? So we will just play around here making different noises with our noses just to see, and just for a little bit of fun as well. And these photos are just adorable. I love all the illustrations in this book, and I know my students are going to as well. When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. Once again, here is our monster. And let's not forget about his teeth. How many did you see? Was it 1 and 1 and 2, or was it only 3? Were they crooked? Were they clean? Were they hidden? Were they mean? So I'm going to get all my students to show us their teeth, and I'm also going to have these little Dracula teeth to pass around as well. There's going to be 1 each, and my students can just play around with them just to get them used to using their fine motor skills and also the teeth as well. Were they cotton? Or were they rocks? Or were they smelly, welly socks? When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. So for this, were they cotton? I have this soft cotton pad that my students can feel. We'll pass that around. I'm also going to get my students to find some rocks as well. So I'm going to have a little sensory tray and they can pull out the rocks. And I've even got some socks, and they can smell the socks as well to see if they're smelly. They're not smelly, but I am going to spray them with a little something just to give them a little scent for that sensory experience. Did he have a lot to say? Did you ask him about his day? Was he early? Was he late? Did he break his breakfast plate? Did he have his cup of joe? Did he drop it on his toe? So I'm going to have these little cups passed around to my students, and I'm just going to fill them with a little drink for them to taste at this point as well. So as you can see here, he's probably drinking coffee, so I am just going to have, you know, maybe chocolate milkshake. I don't want to give my students coffee, but we'll give them a little drink and they can try that as well. When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. Look at his clothes. What did he wear? Was it tight? Was it loose? Or was he only hair? Was he neat and clean and tidy? Or did he have a lot of spiders? And this is why I'm going to have these little spiders to pass around to my students. They're actually little rings, so they can wear them as well throughout this. Or we can put them on our monster. I am going to get a few little pieces of clothing to put on the monster so the children can dress him as well. Put a little t-shirt on him, or jeans, or some shoes. Again, just gets them working on those important life skills and their fine motor skills as well. Was he strong, or was he jelly? Or was he short and had a belly? When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. So this is where I'll get my children to, I'll pass around a little bowl with jelly in, and they can wobble the jelly, feel the jelly, and just experience the texture of jelly as well. Did he cough with a rattle, or did he giggle with a cackle? Was his voice hoarse and raspy, or was it gruff and kind of nasty? So here I'll ask my students, what do you think the monster sounds like? What noises does he make? You know, this will work for non-verbal students as well. They don't have to talk for this. They can just make non-verbal noises. And I like to mimic the noises back to them just to make it that little bit more interactive. With a snivel and a drivel while he looked for a little nibble. When you talk about the monster, you bring him down to size. So what I love about this page is there's options of food here, but it doesn't say specifically what food he has. So I'm going to mix this up every time we do the sensory story. And today I actually have a pain au chocolat, and that's what my students are going to be trying. They won't have a whole one each. I cut it up into small sections. I don't force my students to try it, but I do encourage them to touch it, smell it, lick it, taste it, anything to help expose them to new foods and get them used to new foods as well. So surely you can see your fear don't gotta be, because you have the monster key and he's waiting by the door drinking monster tea. And this is our key for the monster's door. And I'm just going to get my students to, they can have this, and then I'm going to progress to using our key for our classroom door, and they can all go over and start getting used to how to use a key, how to put it in the door, how to turn it, how to lock a door, how to open a door. So again, all really important functional life skills, and this is all just from one book. So that's how great this book really is. So what you're going to do, because it's really up to you, he's trying to say goodbyes. So talk about the monster and bring him down to size. And just look how adorable this photo is here, this illustration. I really like this book, you know. I just think the illustrations are lovely. The meaning behind the story is lovely. And I've even got these little posters here that I can use in my students' missing monster. Have you seen this monster? And I do intend to make some more activities to go with this book to prolong the learning. So finding the monster, naming the monster. He is a worry monster, so you can open his mouth and put things in here. So I am going to provide symbol options for my students who can't write yet, and then my students who can write, they can write down their worries, put it in the worry monster. And again, we are encouraging talking about the monster and talking about all those inside feelings. So if you were looking for a really great book this year that you really want to get your students thinking and talking, then I really think this is the book for you. It's called Talk About the Monster, and it's written by Mistofer Christopher. I really recommend it, and you know, definitely you can make this a fun sensory story like I'm going to. You can make it interactive and hands-on with your students, or you can just use it as a generic picture story with your students, because it works really well both ways. So I hope you found this sensory story helpful again. I know that you guys are really enjoying the sensory stories and you're asking me for scripts all the time. So if you need a script for any particular sensory story, or you'd like me to do a video on a particular book, let me know, send me an email, message me on social media, Teaching Autism, and I'll be happy to help.